In healthcare, we cling on very strongly to our identities as a nurse or a physician or whatever it is. Boxes us in a little bit when we cling to that. And I think a lot about what's possible and opening up our perspective can really allow for our evolution as people.
It's never going to be perfect. Perfect is being unto itself. And so every time I give it, it is perfection, but it is also like this continual state of progress.
Perfection really is the greatest myth of all. There is no such thing. And so it's each piece of art, work, spoken word, written word, encounter, relationship, coaching experience really is just stands unto itself.
You are not stuck. You are able to change and transform into something else if that's what you want.
Welcome to the Transforming Healthcare Coaching Podcast, where we're all about helping healthcare professionals like you create positive change at work, at home, and everywhere in between. So I am super excited for our end of year episode. You get all 5 of us on the Transforming Healthcare Coaching Podcast. And it seems really cool because even though we have our monthly team huddles, this one just feels different because we're actually all here together celebrating the journey that we've come on for the past year. And I know for many of you listening, you may or may not take time to really think and reflect and do a retrospective for how the year went. And so if it's helpful to you, we're going to do a little retrospective right here for the 5 of us as we've gone through the journey of 2025 and what we've seen in our clients, what we've seen here in the podcast and in the business, and also just anything personal that we'd like to share as well. So thanks everybody for joining us on this end of year episode of the Transforming Healthcare Coaching Podcast. And so I think I'd like to open with a question for the group, whoever wants to answer, in terms of what does it feel like when you look back, generally speaking, about how your coaching and life has gone for 2025?
One of my favorite things about this year is actually getting connected with this group because my vision is to help healthcare providers, people who are in all stages of their careers, all stages of life, to understand that in spite of everything that goes on in healthcare and comes at them every day, that there's something that we can do and that you can make personal choices that make your life better for yourself. And so getting connected with people who are also focused on people who work in healthcare has been a wonderful addition to the things that I do with regard to coaching and speaking. And so I'm very grateful for this change, but that's sort of the biggest thing that's happened in my life this year.
Thanks so much for sharing, Vicki.
As I look back, and I think as with most people, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be things that went really well and things that were disappointing or frustrating to us. But I've learned through the whole journey about becoming a coach that it's kind of nice if we can view things as not black or white, not right or wrong, but just as they are, because we don't know what's going to happen down the road. We don't know if a situation that felt full of disappointment or whatever, or frustration, will actually turn around into something good down the road. So for me, it's ups and downs, but keeping a growth mindset and trying to learn from every experience along the way.
Thanks so much for sharing, Gillian.
I think awareness has been a huge factor for the success of this year. Awareness that change is inevitable and to embrace it, I think, is the biggest thing. And when I think of how we've come over the past year and reflected the year before as well, is we've made some changes and we've adapted to the things that we're hearing from our clients in our MedThrive group coaching community, from our individual clients, to just the way healthcare is evolving, which it constantly is, pivoting and finding joy in the different directions that we've had to take, and helping our clients to see that as well with their own lives, I think has been my greatest learning of this year.
I would say that recognizing that the challenging spaces are actually the places where I grow the most. And I know that translates for others as well. But just remembering that when things are hard and challenging, that the other side makes you and makes me a better person.
It's such a great perspective, Michelle. And I think for me, it really is about saying yes, actually. I still look back on the day way back in the beginning when we started our LinkedIn newsletter. And I said, would anyone be willing to write? And Gillian raised her hand. And here we are. At the end of the year, we completed our own writing challenge. And so I think for me, just thinking through What can you say yes to? Throughout the year, you come out prouder, you stand up a little taller, and you wonder, how have I changed and crystallized through that process? So I guess my next question is for all of us is, what belief about transformation in healthcare did you think about this year as you reflected with your clients and their personal growth journeys and your personal growth journeys? What reflections do you have just about the idea of transforming in this one year? How are we all different?
So one of the things that I encountered with, I'm thinking of a particular client, is this idea of possibility. And that was actually the shift for her is like, what would you do if anything that you wanted was possible? And that question opened up this whole idea of what's possible in our world. And so that was a powerful question that was actually very useful to me, thinking about what's possible in healthcare. Things are only possible if we imagine them first. And so when we start to think about what needs to happen and what we want to happen in this world of taking care of people, I just love thinking about what's possible and what could we do if anything was possible. So that's my thought of the year regarding how healthcare can change.
I think selling people on transformation is very difficult in healthcare. And that's a lesson I've known for a while, still working on the front lines, is oftentimes we see a vision and we want that vision. We want the results. And we forget that it takes a journey of transformation to get to that result. So just picking up on what Vicki mentioned, for those listening, just remembering that it's supposed to be a slow, enjoyable transformation to get to where you want to be. It could be quicker, who knows? But, one thing to always take in mind is enjoy the process. And it helps to have a community or a mentor or a coach or a friend or a family member who's constantly supporting you in that process.
I think for me, as I reflect, one of our clients that we have a lot of directors who choose us to be their coach. And I just think of a particular client who had to really step into a role where he, by chronological age, may be younger than others. And that journey and transformation in that process of being able to step up and lead the team and bring others along with him to coalesce their mission, their values for the organization, and to align that from a greater systemic level was really a powerful thing to watch him be able to accomplish with his other co-directors and his teams. And so I think just to be able to bear witness and be some small part of support along the way was really powerful for me this year.
I like to think as I get involved with conflict resolution, mediation, all that kind of stuff. So I'm always very conscious of it. Healthcare's full of teams. We all work in teams all the time, and team dynamics can get challenging sometimes. So I like to think that just through reframing the way that we approach either conflict or difficult conversations or giving or receiving feedback, that we can actually approach it with more ease and flow and be with less anxiety and less stress and make more of an impact and have that flow through teams and organizations so that there's enough stress. We don't need the additional stress of team dynamics. So I love to think that we can get teams to a better place.
I think about, as I've been listening to everyone's answers, and what came to mind to me was that in healthcare, we cling on very strongly to our identities as a nurse or a physician or an administrator, or whatever it is. And I think that boxes us in a little bit when we cling to that. And I think a lot about how, as Vicki said, seeing what's possible and opening up our perspective can really allow for our evolution as people, because we all evolve. We're never going to be the same as we were 2 years ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. And how can we open up that box that we put ourselves in to let ourselves see and do what is actually possible?
So we've done a bit of reflecting. And at the end of the year, we really should be having some degree of celebration. And so I'm curious, what is one moment that you or your clients chose progress over perfection?
That's been my entire year because I'm a speaker. So I'm developing my speech, my keynote. I spend so much time in development and then you give it. And it's recognizing that every time I give it, it's an iteration. And it's a great iteration. And the next one's going to be even better. And so just letting go of this need to like get it perfect, because it's never going to be perfect. Perfect is being unto itself. And so every time I give it, it is perfection. But it is also like this continual state of progress, as well as I've worked with clients who were helping them recognize, as I don't remember who said it, change is this constant. And so because change is constant, we're changing, which means that embracing this idea of progress and change and letting go of that, like holding on to this perfection thing, actually frees us up and lets go of a part of our brain to look around and embrace what is.
When we're talking about things learned, reflecting back and celebrations, I celebrate a lot of the members that we have in our Red Thrive group coaching community, because working in healthcare is challenging, very challenging. And then to set aside time for your own well-being is like, when can I do that? We're having changes in EMR as we have more patient volume loads, life distractions get in the way. And so I always love to celebrate our members because they're still actively taking steps and finding ways to improve their professional experience, their personal lives. And though they may sometimes not feel like they're giving their all to the development through our community and our program, they're still showing up. And I think that's something to celebrate, is as long as you're showing up for yourself to continue to grow, to adapt in this transformation that you're looking to have, I think that's a win to celebrate. And I celebrate our members today.
Yeah, I would say I think for me, the progress over perfection really has also been the journey of showing up on LinkedIn, showing up with newsletters, showing up here on the podcast, just to be able to know that through the practice itself, you'll get better. And so just being able to continue to reiterate, refine, and sometimes it can feel a little bit exhausting, the fact that you're like, it can never be good enough and there's no such thing. So thanks, Vicki, for pointing that out, that perfection really is the greatest myth of all. There is no such thing. And so it's each piece of art, work, spoken word, written word, encounter, relationship, coaching experience really just stands unto itself. And just to be able to be present and enjoy it for what it is. Okay, so now I want to do a little bit more rapid fire. So if people are willing, I guess I'd be curious in terms of what's one win and one thank you.
I can jump in here. So one win would be that I never liked being on camera and I never liked being on podcasts. So Lily, thank you to you. You've got me over, or you're getting me through that uncomfortable feeling and showing up more naturally. So
I love it.
So yeah, thanks.
So I have a couple of wins this year, but I'll go with one. I've already talked about getting connected with this group of people who are supporting people within healthcare, but I've been writing more this year. I've never written before. And so I'm putting more ideas together and formulating more thoughts, which is a lot of fun. And so I think that's a win, that I'm willing to do that and I'm willing to believe that I can write. And my thank you is going to go out to Lily and Klaus and Gillian for helping me get involved in this group. So thank you.
I think my win is the confidence developed. Took some time to be more confident in talking about what I do as a coach, what we do through transforming healthcare coaching with my direct healthcare teams. And it's reaped so many benefits because there's so many people that want to hear this. They want the transformations, they want the growth. And so that was a win for me over this past year. And I thank this team, because without the growth through continuous learning, as we do as healthcare professionals, but as what we do as coaches, and the diverse experiences, Michelle, Vicki, Gillian, Lily, that you bring from your personal healthcare journeys to your coaching journeys to your niches within coaching, you taught me so much. So I thank you all.
I'm going to say my one win, actually, I think will be making it 30 days on video on LinkedIn. And I need to thank Shanae Moray for that challenge. To be able to redo that again came unexpectedly this year, to be able to just become more confident, more crystallized, just to piggyback off of Klaus. So I guess I'll steal that. I think it's helpful to be able to be more clear. Okay, so next rapid fire is, what's one thing we'll do more of because it worked? I guess I'll go first. The one thing is just to keep on doing those self-imposed deadlines, and every week is a chance to practice. And so now with just seeing things differently with the newsletter, with the podcast, every week is a chance to show up and be here. And so hoping that we'll get better and better with the things that resonate for you, our audience, in different ways, whether the written form or in the auditory form or in the video form. We have all kinds of things that we'd like to be able to help you be a better version of yourself as a healthcare leader.
And what's coming up for me is we've started team coaching. We started it this year, and we're 3 of us are in the certification program. So I see us doing more of that because we can have more of an impact. We're not just coaching the leader, we're coaching all the connections that the leader has. And I think there's a huge impact we can make. So I would love to do more team coaching.
I do something every week that is my executive team meeting. So I am a business of one. I contract to organizations, but I have my executive team meeting every Monday morning. So CEO Vicki meets and says, what do I expect employee Vicki to do this week? And then I set out a plan. And at the end of the week, and then I take CEO hat off and I do the work. I coach the people. I do the speaking. I do the networking. I connected with lots of healthcare professionals across LinkedIn. And I talk to a lot of people. And then on Friday, I'm like, okay, CEO hat goes back on. How did employee Vicki do? And it helps really keep me focused on the things that are important to focus on, because I split myself into 2 things. And I'm responsible to myself, but I'm also responsible to the people that I serve in the course of the week. So that I'm going to keep doing that because it does actually work.
Love that tip. That is a very powerful tip.
I think I have spent a lot of work this year on setting and keeping boundaries, and I recognize how important that is for me. I find it very easy to overextend myself, and I know that that's true among other leaders in healthcare. So boundary work is definitely something that I'm going to keep doing this year in 2026.
Awesome.
I can definitely feel the importance of boundaries, and maybe we can have an episode on that, Michelle. And I think that's something we hear a lot from our clients as well, is how do we set boundaries, keep those boundaries, but not feel guilty when we create them. So I think it'd be a great episode. For me would be continuously sharing what it is that we are offering, what it is that we do. Because that is why I went into coaching, was because I felt the power of it in my own life. And as a result of coaching over the past few years, know the importance of it for other people. Granted, it's not for everybody, but for most people, there is some benefit that they can get. And we offer so much free insights and knowledge in the podcast, but we have all these specialized programs. And with the confidence that I've gained this year, sharing this knowledge and sharing these offerings that we've had have brought a lot of interest for people. So that's my challenge to myself as things move on, as we progress, is to don't be shy. Share it with the people that you love and care for who may want to hear more about this.
So I kind of want to also put a face to a name, or I guess I really want to try to put some context behind the stories that we often get to see and hear. Many people are very curious, what exactly happens in a coaching engagement? Or really, how do you actually help people? It's very mysterious and still not very clear to some people in healthcare. And so I think it's really helpful to hear the stories of some of ourselves. We often, ourselves as coaches, have coaches, and our clients have, obviously, ourselves as coaches. And so I think it's often helpful to hear about, how do the wins actually occur? So I guess if people be willing to humor me, if you could just walk us through a win, either yourself or in a client, in what I would call 4 beats or 4 steps. First would be what was the context? What was the intervention or what changed? And that came out of the coaching conversation. That's what we're going to try. That's what we're going to do. That's what the new action is. And then what became the ripple effect afterwards in the subsequent coaching sessions? Because then what became the lesson? So I'll give an example. So, for example, in the particular context that I had explained before, one of our clients really had a high-stakes engagement conversation they needed to present to senior directors well above that person. And so that is a very stressful encounter, especially when you're a new leader. You have to do some kind of presentation that represents your entire department or your division. And so in the intervention of thinking through that and just brainstorming perspectives and trying to ask questions that helped my client think through what would be the different perspectives and what would be the knowledge gaps or attitude perceptions that all the stakeholders in the room would be coming to the presentation with was helpful. And so that when he mobilized his team and created consensus, agreement, and rallied around defining a mission and a vision statement for their whole entire division and hospital, the ripple effect for him was having a clear stake in the ground explanation and actually praise for how his group was able to deliver the care that they are delivering on a day in, day out. They've been doing it for quite some time. They've grown quite a bit. And so just to be able to categorize, explain, and show to division chiefs well above him that process, the ripple effect in terms of the lesson that I learned through that coaching process, and I think that hopefully that he also learned, is the fact that when we think systemically about where we operate in the world, it's not just a single one perspective. That when we think more holographically about where we are in relationship to our individual family, team, self, boss, hospital, system, organization, there's opportunities to try on, as Vicki often talks about in her talks, trying on different parallel lenses. Oh, there we go. Right. So with that, I'll turn it over to somebody else. But I think that was the lesson, I think, for one of my particular clients that comes to mind.
I have one that's coming to mind. And this was an individual who'd worked within a particular healthcare system for a long time. She's a physical therapist, works in a subspecialty of physical therapy. And she'd been in this particular setting with this particular group for a very long time. And there'd been some changes in management and changes in regulations that were impacting her values as it related to her ability to provide care and do it in a way that she felt she was feeling good about. So she was having this values conflict. And so we talked about what's important to you and how does where you are now feed that and how does it go in conflict with that? And what would a place look like if it was more in alignment with your values at this point in your life and in your career? And it opened up a lot of thoughts for her. And this was so much fun because she started looking around. She's like, where can I be where I'm not going home every night completely exhausted because what I want to do and what I can do, it's causing so much angst for me. And so the outcome of this whole conversation, and we did this over, I guess it was like 6 or 8 sessions, she found a new location that actually lines up with her values. And so she shifted employers. And the difference in her affect, her mood, the way she talks now, her confidence, it's extraordinary. And so she also was moving into more of a leadership position at this new role where she wasn't having opportunities at the old organization. And so it was really just about exploring what was important to her and how she could find a place that honored what was important to her so that she could continue to do just extraordinary subspecialty physical therapy care and do it at a place where she didn't go home exhausted every night mentally from the hoops she was having to jump through in her head to make it okay to be there. This is probably one of my favorite clients I've ever had because the change was just so impactful and it really did. It totally changed her life. And I'm really grateful to have been a part of it.
A client I can think of is a leader in a hospice and a newly appointed leader who I really felt was having some level of imposter syndrome. And she was working long hours and she was burning out and she was dealing with a team who were not as performing as well as she would like to. So we looked at what she felt was important leadership characteristics and where she fell there and where were the gaps. And we worked to close those gaps and also help her become a more confident and influential leader for her team, and more capable of dealing with staffing issues and performance issues.
Well, I'll keep my points a little bit more generalized in the essence of grouping me in with some of my clients and with my healthcare professionals. It's taking large goals, big visions, multiple things that are causing extreme overwhelm and packing that in and then figuring out what's important. And it may not be the most important thing that they initially came to me for, and breaking that down into small little steps that make it seem less overwhelming, and being able to celebrate those little steps towards the transformations they are seeking. And that's something I even do with my own coach. And I'm a big believer of having my own coach when I advocate for this profession so much. And it works incredibly well for me. And as somebody who's been coached for several years now, I'm much more intentional about celebrating these little wins. And my vision just gets bigger and bigger. And it's always an enjoyable process. And I could never imagine being where I am today without the work with my coach, because I think I would have eventually gotten here, but it would have taken a lot longer. So big goals into small little goals that are achievable.
In concluding, I guess I'm curious, if you only remember one idea from today, how would you fill in the blank?
Progress, not perfection.
Can I add, trying on different lenses to see different perspectives?
That we learn and grow from every experience, whether we perceive it as a positive or a negative experience. There's always room for learning or a new opportunity.
You are not stuck. You are able to change and transform into something else if that's what you want.
So if this episode was interesting or helped you in any way, please share it with one colleague and also compare notes. Start a conversation. And if you're interested in diving into more that we have to offer, book a 20-minute strategy call. Bring some kind of sticky issue, we'll map out a first move. Just like as Klaus said, trying to break things down to something tiny and manageable is often the very first step. That's what we help you get clarity with. And we'll go ahead and sneak peek and leak this now, but also consider getting onto our email newsletter so that you can be the first to know when our new MedThrive Leadership Intensive begins. We're going to be creating a 3-month intensive to go all in on your personal leadership and well-being journey. Because as you heard from the lessons that Vicki has shared, being the CEO of your own life means it's not just about delivering service to everybody else. It's about putting yourself in center of all of it so that you can show up in all the different many ways that you show up for your family, yourself, your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers, your patients, your organizations. You're so much more, and you do so many more things that people recognize you for. And our leadership intensive is meant to allow you to thrive at the center of all of that. And so as we come to a close, I'm curious if anyone has any other last thoughts to close out 2025 and bring in 2026.
Thing I'd like to say is that we always have possibilities and opportunities. And if we change our lens, we have the chance to make our next years better than before. And if we just are more present as we move forward, we can start to recognize that the people that we're around, we have a really strong influence on them, whether we're a leader, whether we're a direct provider, or whether we're administration or management. We all have the capacity to influence others in a positive way. So let's use that superpower to improve the world of healthcare.
That our energy really does make a difference in the world. And so when we take care of ourselves first, the rest will follow. Thanks everybody for listening. Happy 2025, and we'll see you in 2026. Thanks so much for listening. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share with a colleague who would benefit. Together, we can transform healthcare one person at a time. Find us anywhere you find your podcasts. Ready to take your healthcare leadership journey to the next level? Book a discovery call free at transforminghealthcarecoaching.com to explore our personalized coaching packages designed specifically for healthcare professionals like you.